Bitcoin is still hovering just above 100,000. But this last week, we saw some price movement on some of the high risk altcoins I've been tracking closely. Now, is it game on for the altcoin run? Well, let's take a deeper look at price action and see what we can see today. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. So, have you ever worried about money? What if you learned to use some of your money to work for you in just the right way so that you never had to worry about money again? Now, I grew up poor in life, so pretty much secondhand clothes, bologna sandwiches every day for lunch. And it isn't bad to grow up that way, but I realize the true value of money is that it allows us options in life. It can decrease as well that gnawing worry we carry about how do we meet all of our financial obligations and perhaps afford the nicer things we want in life and the travel we want. Well, after a few months of being in crypto, when I started 8 years ago, I recognized that crypto investment done right had the most amazing, massive potential to allow us to get to a place where we didn't have to worry about money again. Now, after 8 years of being in crypto now, I know that crypto can and will change your finance in your life, but there's a huge catch. The catch is that it only works if you're doing it right. Now, while being in crypto, I learned something very scary. You see, I know people that have been here longer in crypto than I have, but they aren't rich or even close to rich yet. They're still stuck pretty close to where they started at 9 and 10 years ago. See, I learned that 89% of people in crypto don't make meaningful money or flat out lose money, and it's because they're just doing it wrong. Can we agree that even if you're in the right place, but you're doing the wrong things, you're still going to have really bad results? Now, only 5% of crypto investors make life-changing gains and take them into the lifestyle that we all dreamed about as kids. Another principle that I learned that applies to crypto investing is that if you find what successful people are doing and you copy exactly how they do things, you start having their results. So when I was new in crypto, I started focusing 100% of everything on figuring out what those 5% did and putting into practice myself. And by 2021, just 4 years after getting started in crypto, using those principles, I was able to fire my day job, move to the city I wanted, and put myself in position to never have to work again if I didn't want to. Now, this channel is where I share what I learned. I share my research on the companies that I like and why I like them. And particularly on Wednesdays is our price analysis day. This is a day where we combine what I've learned with our special guest, Paul, joining us from DevvExchange. Now, Paul has 30 years price analysis experience analyzing charts. And Wednesdays are a fun time to look at price movements of what is happening to see what might be cheap, what might be really cheap, and what might be expensive, and what might be about to explode. Note, if you're looking to be part of the 5% that makes life-changing gains, join the Patreon in the link below that will give you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. Because surrounding yourself with people who have learned and are learning to do the right things in the right ways is exactly how you get good at this. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul looks at many different markets. None of this to be taken as financial advice. So make it rain on that like button. Strap in for the show. Help me welcome Paul from DevvExchange. Paul, so good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Why?
I was just wondering. I've heard the term balonies for so many years, and I don't know what exactly is a bologna sandwich.
So I don't know. It's really cheap, inexpensive meat that probably is like the discards from the expensive meat. And so it was like literally I had white bread and bologna sandwiches. I'd take one for lunch, and I would take a little thermos of milk, and that was usually my lunch when I was a kid. It was a way to get by when you're super poor, and we were super poor.
Yeah, I thought bologna. I mean, bologna is an expression that I know that means kind of nonsense in American. It's an American phrase to mean nonsense, but I didn't know exactly what was.
Well, bologna. I'm pretty sure is about probably the cheapest lunch meat you can buy.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
If
that.
that tells you anything, I don't even know what's in it, but it
Mm.
probably is not like, yeah, it's probably the discards from all the other stuff.
So that makes sense why it'd be called, the phrase would be baloney. Yeah, I was just curious. Sorry, little aside. So it's funny where these things come from.
Yeah,
Um,
you know, one of the good things of growing up super poor is you often will grow up hungry for better because you never had anything handed to you. And so you just learn that if you want to make things happen in your life, it's up to you because
mm,
nobody's going to hand it to you.
yeah. Chris has just come in with it's cheaper and worse than hot dogs. So that makes sense. Kind of the worst of the processed food. So yeah, okay, I get
That's
it.
true. It is cheaper and worse than hot dogs. Money May here. Howdy, the dynamic duel. What's up, Paul and Jay? Happy Wednesday. Good morning, gents. Bologna is still better than peas on toast. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, peas is now an expression, certainly in the UK, to mean money. So slang is for peas. You got any peas? When the kids are talking about money. So
That's
things
interesting.
change, don't they? But yeah, yeah, I don't eat peas on toast personally, so that's not one for me. Beans on toast, maybe, but not peas. But I like peas. Anyway, we've digressed, haven't we? We should get back to the show.
Well,
Um,
share with us what you're keeping an eye on, what you're
yeah.
tracking this week.
Well, just isn't it interesting in 1 week again that we've had a complete change of sentiment when last week it was the stock markets were over, it was all going to crash, and okay, so crypto still under a bit of a cloud, but some price action has rebounded, but risk on trades are still, hot and getting hotter, and we'll see. It should translate into a move in the crypto market and the alts as well. I'd be surprised if it doesn't. That doesn't guarantee it, as I keep saying. We're seeing some unusual price action in some of the highly risky altcoins as well, and the turnarounds tend to be really fast, which means that we're in a very an interesting period. But as I was saying last week, I didn't think that this was over. I didn't think the risk on phase was over, and the feeling I got, or the sentiment read I got, was people thought that was it. It's all over, and it's time for everything to go down. And if we look again at the sentiment indicators, we look at where is it? Oh, there we go. Sorry, yeah, fear and greed is still at 26, and I guess that's, well, it's a good sign that's still very low, and risk on seems to be doing okay. It seems to be, fairly positive. So my read of the markets is, we'll look at the Dow. We had this sharp move down 1 week down, and then we're already in all-time highs, and the transports looking to break out. Nasdaq has recovered well. It's jumped back up, not into an all-time high, but we shall see. S&P, that looks ready to break. Russell 2000, smaller stocks, that's doing okay. VIX index is coming back down. In the UK stock market is accelerating up. We've got the French stock market that looks ready to go. The DAX looks ready to go. The EU 50 is breaking out today. We've got the Italian stock markets broken out today. It's all looking positive. Then we go to China, that's consolidating, probably ready to break out. We've got Hong Kong, that's looking like it wants to break out higher. Japan, that's still in a bull trend, had a consolidation. Then look at gold. Gold went sideways for a bit. Everyone said the trend's over. Boom, it's just gone back up. Silver, look how it's accelerated back up to the high. Platinum and palladium, they're ready to go as well. What else? We've got aluminium breaking up. We've got nickel sideways. We've got zinc breaking higher. I think lead's moving as well. So the commodities are all, and the main equity markets are all looking very positive. We've got oil going down, which is a positive for risk on. And then when it comes to the dollar, that really looks like we are close to a top here. I mean, it failed at 100 and it's starting to work its way down. And, finally, in terms of the bond markets and interest rates and forward-looking interest rates, the little spike up we got the other day or the other week seems to have reversed. And it's not quite out of the woods, but it still does feel very much like it's going lower. And the 2-year and the 10-year are behaving themselves. So as far as the market goes, any worries that we saw there have eased, and risk on is still the play. And as I say, sentiment seems a 180 from last week, which it felt like everyone was saying everything's over. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin, yeah, it hasn't, it's not trending upwards as yet, but it has held support, and we'll see whether this trend line holds or whether we get a greater correction. But I don't think that this trend is over. And ETH as well, that had a very sharp correction, hit some important support points that we looked at last week. It's rallied, but it's more in a consolidation zone. So it's got a bit more work to do. Both of them got more work to do before they go back into breakout territory. But the overall bias for me is still to the upside, just because of the macro scene and the main risk on plays.
Yeah. Interesting that some altcoins broke to the upside, but Bitcoin's still hovering where it is. I know following the news closely isn't a lot of what you do, but we have like a bill is being pushed through in the US with some regulation. And yeah, curious your thoughts on if that kind of regulatory stability does increase a lot of money coming in to crypto.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the drawbacks of doing business in any country for any type of business is the regulatory hurdles that are put in place, and working through them and staying on doing the right thing. And if you make it easier, more money can flow in. Sometimes that happens at the wrong time and it can cause problems, but that's for further down the pipe. Usually, as the markets get hotter, regulation gets easier because there's more money to be made, and that's more tax dollars, and the pressure to do it is greater. It's only when there's some kind of crisis that this sort of stuff is reined in. But any business will tell you that one of the biggest problems they have is dealing with government, or even dealing with paperwork and regulatory problems. And for example, like setting up a fund, if you haven't already set up a fund, it's very, very hard to set a fund up because of all the regulation. And anything that makes it either possible or easier for other businesses might want to do something, but they might not be able to do it because of a regulatory restriction. So they might like to invest in crypto, but they might not be able to. Why Dfinity exists to help them do it. And so things like that can only help the market. So when more money is made, more risk is also taken, and these things will help to integrate crypto into mainstream. I mean, just go back a couple of years and just think, what was it like talking about crypto even being part of mainstream finance? It was like nobody could see it happening. They were still talking about it being something that was only used, for nefarious purposes. So attitudes have changed a lot. We've had ETFs, we've got major companies using it, and it's just becoming more and more ingrained into mainstream. And not quite the man on the street type. This is for people on your channel who are ahead of the curve. That they'll see it before, obviously, the man on the street sees it. But I guess at some stage that's coming, and we'll will have an integration perhaps in the banking system where you can maybe go into a bank and buy and sell or transact in crypto. That's the sort of thing I'm thinking that will be possible one day, and perhaps even to decide what currency you want to pay in, unless there's regulatory restrictions before we get to that point where the government says, no, you've got to use the government currency, or digital currency that obviously they want to integrate. And in some ways, I have some sympathy for a digital currency by a government, because whilst I don't like the idea of the restrictions that it could put on citizens in terms of the saying what they can spend and what they can't, and the whole worry about social credit and it being like China, if you post something and they don't like what you've said, they can just turn your money off. I do have sympathy for the idea that money is laundered and money is counterfeited. So if other countries are counterfeiting a lot of American dollars, then how do you stop that? So there is a balance to be had, but the problem can be that if you give governments too much power, they it doesn't usually get reversed. And if they have power over your money, that's why I think the crypto space and the competition that all these cryptocurrencies have against a government backed one, keep the government backed one honest. Because if you don't want to, if they try and impose it and you decide that you don't want to use it, you can move to something else. There is something else, whether you want to use a Monero type coin or a Bitcoin or whatever it is, the system is there. And so in some ways, you can't force people to use something if there is better competition for them to a better competitive product for them to move to. But without seeing details of the regulation that was lifted, I can't really comment, because I didn't see those comments. I just saw, risk on and markets moving in the right direction, because I just look at charts. But I'm always open to hearing what's going on, of course.
Yeah, like, so one of the things that I've just noticed in life, that there's two ways to get ahead in this world, or to try to get ahead. One is to produce better, and one is to play politics. And when economies and countries and nations grow tremendously is when they get as much of the politics out of it and encourage production. So what the politics looks like is, for example, the Dark Ages. Like, why did the Dark Ages last so long? Why was so little innovation done during the Dark Ages? And the reason is because the king would appoint his nephew to be the armor maker. And so say somebody came out with a better way to make armor, that person wasn't promoted to the position of armor maker. They were actually forced to teach the nephew how to make armor like that and then kill. So nobody spent the time to innovate because you couldn't keep the gains of your innovation. So it wasn't until there was really, when innovation went crazy, was there was protections on your innovation, that when you, like patent protection and other things, so that you could get the rewards of your innovation and keep them with and really grow things. Now, the more a country aligns with encouraging production over playing politics to get ahead, the more that country booms, the richer that country becomes. And you can just look back in history, every major empire, the reason why they were so dominant is because they got their economics in line by encouraging production rather than politics. And because they had their economics in line, they were able to afford, an amazing vast army, and that then enforce their country's will and dominance. Like the US, why is the US the number one country in the world as far as military? Well, because they have the number one economy in the world. The number one economy in the world funds, research and development for the number one military in the world. And so, if, people are like, the US is so corrupt. And it's like, well, it is corrupt. It's probably just less corrupt than most of the countries out there, because why else would it have the number one economy in the world if production wasn't more rewarded in the US than every other country. And as other countries come in line, the US thinks they'll have this position for forever, and they won't. You're seeing things out of Dubai that are amazing, and the amount of production increase there, because the politics are a fairly known quantity. You have to earn the wealth that you generate there. Other countries could totally pass this up. And so it's encouraging production versus playing politics. And politics is, oh, I know the right person, so I got this super large military contract, even though the planes that I produce aren't as good as somebody else's planes. It's like, I know the right people. And so they went with my bid, not because my planes were the best, but because I'm connected. And that's what playing politics versus production looks like. And that's why, I worked in Montreal for a couple of years with Latin American immigrants. And, I was trying to figure out, I was like, man, some of the hardest working people in the world are from Central and South America, and really cool and smart. Like, why are their countries so behind? I realized it was just politics, corruption holding back things, very resource rich. The people there, that a lot of who I met at least, were very hardworking, very focused people. In Montreal, Canada, some of the hardest working students in the school system there were Latino immigrants. And so in Montreal, it's like most of the Latino immigrants were all A+ students. It was really fascinating. Anyway, other side note, like, we're starting to see, what I love about crypto innovation is that we get this window of efficiency produced by the better products and services. Like, stable coins, are stable coins superior in many ways to like dollar bills? Yes. And stable coins aren't even produced by the government. I think the Trump administration has embraced stable coins because it's a way to really sell treasury bills to fund the US government. So it's ended up being a win for them and creating more value in the dollar because of that. And so we're going to see, like you said, central bank digital currencies. My concern is that, even if we 100% trusted the governments of today, that they would never do anything corrupt, and we give them that kind of power. Once you give them that kind of power, you don't usually get it back. And even if the governments today were 100% free of corruption, which they're not, down the road, rules can be changed, and that they can then control your spending. They say, for example, they don't like if you buy Kraft macaroni and cheese, so your dollars cannot work for Kraft macaroni and cheese. They introduce a huge venue for politics to be put into play rather than production, based on whoever be in power in the time. Oh, we don't like your politics, so therefore we won't let you spend your money. Oh, you know what? Your money won't work outside your city. So it turns over huge amounts of power to the government, that even if they were 100% trustable today, tomorrow they may not be. I don't like the thought of that. I do like the idea of stable coins. I think with most stable coin companies too, if it does go to a judge and everything, your assets can be frozen, especially with like USDC and USDT. So if things go to a judge, they are set up such that you then can get those assets frozen. So there's some governmental oversight against bad actors, but it's somewhat limited because they're not run by the government. And so they have to get, I guess, multiple sign-offs and some protections by having a judge order it. And I like that. Dark Age lasted so long because it was too dark. Yeah, that's exactly it. William Kiefer asks, can you look at Fiat if you have the time? We will add that to the list. All right, let's look at some more. Let's look at some of the altcoins and what they're doing, starting with Filecoin.
Sure. Yeah. So this is a typical setup here that we're seeing that is kind of unpredictable for me from a technical point of view, because what we're seeing is the market's just hitting a hot plate level where it just goes boom, and there's nothing technically to tell you that it's happening other than that we're seeing it in other products, and it will be catching out people who are short, that's for sure. And that would be someone like me going into a downward trend. Not that I would do it with this these products because they are too risky and too volatile. But what it's done is it's turned around out of nowhere, which is unusual because you normally get a sign, you normally get a consolidation, and this has just come out of the blue. So my suspicion is that there has been some form of announcement that's been very positive and caught the market off guard, which is great. It's done a 2-year. I mean, it's not great if you're caught off guard, but what I mean is it's great that it's actually showing some signs of an impulsive upward trend. But it is correcting now, and what's important to see is whether that trend will stick. And the jury's, excuse me, still out on that. This line was in from before. It was like the main resistance line, and we wanted to look for it to work towards that and then break through in order to start the trend to the upside. And certainly broken it, but it's not stayed above it. And I had a quick look at the percentage retracement, which from the low to the high should really hold on to about 50% for it to be in with a shout of reversing again. But it's gone way beyond that. So I'm not sure about this. I think it would still be a wait for me until this settles down. But clearly, this price action is encouraging. Anything that's too volatile is very hard to trade because you can't place an investment and have a reasonable risk reward point. I mean, you could buy here and you could put a stop around here. That would be fairly reasonable because it's a bit below some important resistance, which should now be support. So you could find a level or just have it as a percentage. But anything that's moving around at this sort of clip, I just don't know where it will be tomorrow and in a week's time. So volatility, I'd like it to settle down. When it trends up, I'd like it to be a smoother trend because then you can then it's more predictable, for want of a better expression. But perhaps this is the start of something big, and we'll have to just keep watching it. Recovering this resistance line will be step one, but certainly the bears have run for cover, and I don't think they'll be stepping back in until it's much lower. So again, all I can say is there must have been some news.
Yeah, I don't even know what the news is, but we're seeing some pop-offs we saw that a month ago on some of the privacy narrative coins that all of a sudden several acting in sync popped off. We see this with Filecoin popping off, and I'm just like, I didn't even know what the news was, but probably there was something announced, and maybe it wasn't even announced publicly, but some people learned some things, and we saw the price react out of the blue like this. But we're seeing a little bit of things popping, and I don't even have the information yet that explains it. So you would rate this as a buy, wait, or sell? Sound like a wait.
Yeah, it's a wait for me just because of the volatility. I mean, I do like the we saw some other markets moving like this, as we said. So the privacy coins, we saw some other ones before that acting in a very similar way, where they broke lower and then suddenly turned around and went back up. So it's definitely right to be looking at it. It's good to be on the watch list. If I was feeling sort of in a gambling sort of mood, like buying it here, possibility, it's had its move up, it had a correction. This is the time to be thinking about it, because I wouldn't want to be buying it here having missed the move, right? But so it's correcting, but it's dropping so fast that it needs to dig its heels in and find some interim support. So in that regard, it's come way off the high, you see, because the high was here and then it opened here and it just went straight down. So it's just been negative ever since with not much evidence of buying. So I'd like to see a little bit, and it's even on the low of the current bar. So that's why it's a wait, even though the market has had a really good, reaction that would normally imply that it's starting a new trend.
Yeah, I don't myself have any Filecoin. I remember when it came out, and it really did well in the bull market. But when it came out, it was very expensive at $27. Everybody in the crypto space was talking about it, and the market cap was ginormous compared to everything else back then. And it was like, wow, that's really expensive. Then it came down as token investing. And in the bull market, it did pretty well from its low. So it went all the way up to 167. The bear market low was about close to 250. So it did about a 70, 80x. And then from this almost 182 price, it came all the way down to $1.36. So recently hit some lows. Remember a couple of weeks ago when just all the altcoins just severely got punished, is like the trade war with China looked like there might be a trade war with China, and all the altcoins were punished, and this dropped to some lows. And it was a really good buy, even for more of a blue chip level coin. And it's come up a little bit since then. So I'm watching closely to see what the price action is, to see if it breaks the upside. Do I own this? No, it's outside the market cap of what I'm looking for. When it was a little bit cheaper, it was barely under $1 billion market cap. It did get interesting that I was like, And if I had some money free at that time, I might have bought it. And it's still somewhat interesting here. It's just blue chips make up such a little portion of my bag. I'm mostly in the higher risk stuff. So do I like it at this price? Yes. Am I buying it? No, I don't like Filecoin quite enough. I did like it barely enough at $1.40, but it's come up about 50% since then. So I'm just going to rate it a wait. It's a juicy deal in my opinion, just not juicy enough with enough of an upside potential in my book for me to be buying. So it's just a wait. All right, let's take a look next at FET and see what's going on there.
So again, this is you haven't put my screen up yet. So again, this is another interesting one in that we got the collapse and the rebound, and then more selling came in, and we've got another reaction in the opposite direction. So this is the sort of volatility that you might see in a basing phase that takes a few months before it then starts to trend up.
So we're looking at different FETs. The one I'm looking for is called Artificial Superintelligence Alliance.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. I've just put in FET, and yeah, that was that. Yeah, funnily enough, it looks really similar. Is that not? Is that should be the right one?
Yeah, that is the right one.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks similar, but not quite the same. There are some important differences, and one of the important differences with this is it could be making a reversal. And as I was saying, that sort of price action, the previous chart, was the sort of volatility that you see before the market changes trend. And where I was focused on was this area here in the previous chart, which looked like the price action was compressing, which is normally a signal that a precursor to a breakout. And what I can see here is a potential inverse head and shoulders. And what we have here is this is the left shoulder where the market's gone down. I know it's kind of compressed in time. Then we got this area here is the head of the pattern. And then this is the right shoulder. And all that means is really that the market is kind of basing out. What we need to see is a break of this line here. And as it starts to go up, the closer it gets to this area here, the more it will look like the market is based. So this could be a compression prior to a break higher. So I'd be looking for evidence of a break higher over the week, the following week. Now that doesn't mean I'd necessarily buy it here. I'd like to see it through this level before getting in, because technically I'd need to see a completed reversal pattern, and in order to say that the trend is over. And as I've said before, one can buy and sell at any point. These are rules that indicate the trend is over, but you can try and get in early, and sometimes you get in early and it works, and sometimes you get in early and it doesn't. So as long as you're doing it with your eyes open. So this is interesting. This is not quite ready for me to say I would rate it a buy for me, but it's definitely one that I will now be saying, right, it needs a daily watch rather than a weekly watch, because this could be forming an interesting reversal pattern. And if it runs, it could run quickly and I wouldn't want to miss it. Another interesting element is that I'd be looking for support around here. Let me just draw these lines in. It's already finding some support here, and the next support point would be here. So some support that's pretty close, but if it doesn't get to it, if it goes back up again and starts playing just around this 35 cents area, that would be really interesting, as I say, because this compression is normally a precursor to a breakup. So we shall see. But overall, for the moment, it has to be a wait until I get a clear signal that it's reversed.
Yeah, there's several things we're going to look at today that look like they might be on this cusp of a run, but it's not a confirmed break to the upside yet, but some interesting action worth paying attention to. And so FET, we see, like on the bigger chart, it looks like nothing is happening here because this is the AI run that was still in the bear market. So March of 2024, everything AI related went crazy. So the token price was down at 27 cents, went all the way over 10x to over $3, and then is corrected back down to really where it was before. So this is what I call buy zone or buy low. This is what I call buying high. So it's been in a really good price. Now, the market cap is under $1 billion, but it's still close to the blue chip category. I think it's still in a great price range. And this action is fascinating. So it did get even cheaper here, down to 20 cents. It's up 50%. This one to watch because it might come back down and be really cheap again, or might run away. It's not a bad price at 31 cents, even though it's up 50% from here. But here was just an extra juicy price. If it comes back down to it, I think this is a really strong buy. I like this. They're some of the strongest players in the AI crypto space that came together and formed the Artificial Superintelligence Alliance. And so, you know, I think it's a great token for when the crypto AI narrative runs again. It went 10x during the bear market. Where can it go from these prices in the full-on altcoin run? Probably much higher than that. All right. So I would even give it a buy at this point. Let's look next at DEVVE, which has had some interesting price action.
Yeah, just finding it in my list. There we go. Yeah, again, interesting price action. We've had this common theme of after the big spike down, it clearing out positions and then going back up again. And we've seen a few spikes in markets, and we've got a few more to look at. But this is a classic spike reversal. So you get the sell off, the capitulation, and then the bears disappear and off we go. The market starts to trend up. So this is a good sign. It's a good sign that potentially the trend is over. That's what we want to see. We want to see some form of capitulation. That's the positive side. The negative side here is that it's still within the parameters of a downward trend. So it's doing some good work, but it's not doing enough or hasn't done enough. And this would be the next kind of trend line down that it needs to get through. And this whole area here has got supply in all the way up to 48 cents. But it's back in the zone. It's back in the fighting area, and that's really good. So from a short-term perspective, it's a buy. Whether it becomes a longer-term trade still is open to debate. But given the macro scene, I don't see why it shouldn't be. But it's just a bit too early for me to call a safe entry point. And so I'd be again watching this very closely because it has done something that indicates the low is in. But there still needs to be a bit more evidence of that and some extension of the trend. So I would say it's a wait, but another interesting wait, a daily wait rather than a weekly wait.
Yeah, this is an interesting one to keep an eye on to see what it does from here. So here it is on CoinGecko, and we see this price action. This is shortly after it launched. When it launched, it was trading around 30 to 40 cents, launched all the way up to, doesn't show it here, but it went to 240 or something, came back down all the way to 14 cents, blasted back up to $1.50 range. And then it came back, has gotten really cheap again. And maybe the bottom is in it. It's hard to tell. We'll have to watch what it does, but it's up like 25-35% from these recent lows. So just watching it closely to see what it does. Will these things continue or will they pull back one more time? I don't know, but I know DEVVE was an amazing buy at 30 something cents. At 42 cents, it's still a great buy. Looking at the market cap, this is a layer 1 blockchain that can do faster transaction speeds than any blockchain I'm aware of in the crypto space, and some other really good things going on. The market cap's at $36 million, which is crazy low market cap, a fully diluted valuation of $50 million. So this one of my favorites, and one of the reasons I watch it so closely, and I have a lot of this. One of my largest bags in crypto is my DEVVE. And yeah, been watching this price action, and interesting what's going on here. Don't know if it'll continue. That could signal that that's a bottom, but it just may be signaling that. Like, we don't have confirmation on that yet. So I still rate it though in this area as a buy, because I like to buy low. And the problem with buying low is you rarely get exactly at the bottom, because you think it'll go cheaper and it doesn't. But like when it hits in certain ranges, it's like in that range, it's an amazing buy. Okay, let's take a look next at OMI, which also has had some interesting things going on with its price action.
Yeah, so similarly, we're seeing a move out of a spike low. So the market went down. Obviously, not one that I would jump into. I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I don't buy into bearish candles or red candles, but clearly for people who like yourself who are looking at the macro or the fundamentals, and you think that this is something to average into, this is working well for you. And small signs of a reversal did come in, like very small one. Like we've got a little double bottom here, not enough to indicate anything more than a short-term rebound. But the power of this rebound has been good. There's been some buying on the back of other coins doing the same thing, and we're back into a much safer zone above this 1765 level, which is crucial, really. So it's great that it's above there. A bit of a consolidation and another push, and we could be looking at some even more interesting levels. But again, we've still got big declining highs here. Even this one, which I thought had ended this longer term move down, ended up reversing out. So we've got to be careful. We want to see a series of rising lows and rising highs. We've got a major low. We've got a nice resistance point that's come in. Yes, it's correcting. That's fine, because there'll be people who are jumping on board, selling their short-term kind of gains if they bought in at the low. So yeah, it'll absorb that. I need it to hold over the 1765 and then start to trend up and ultimately get through this line here. And it will do that even if it could just consolidate, so consolidation would be enough. Is it enough for me to buy it or get in? No, not yet. long term, I want to see this break. Like I say, I thought we'd done that here, but there were signs that it was starting to fail, and we got that failure around this 28.42 level, which I'll be watching very closely on the way up to see if it can get through that. Will that be a major barrier? Well, it should be. There's a bit of selling ahead of it, but not quite when it hit it. So we'll see if it can hit that and break it. And if it does, within this little zone, that would be a really good sign if it can get through there. So again, volatility's gone up. There's definitely some interest. I don't know, you guys will know, and I'm sure you'll know, Jay, whether there was some form of announcement, but it seems like things are happening without an announcement. So that's even better, because that means that most people have kind of withdrawn, and maybe there's something coming down the road that they're seeing that nobody else is. So that's usually what happens when the charts move before the news. I do prefer that. If there is some really positive news that's come out, it's already taken in by that price action. The price action's already adjusted to take that into account. But if it's something that we don't know about, then a positive announcement that something's working further down the curve is usually how the market reacts kind of a few months ahead. So we shall see. So it's early days to say ultimately that it's a low, but it's interesting price action. And for the moment, it's a wait.
All right. There was an announcement. The OMI token got listed on Kraken, which is great because a lot of the exchanges that OMI has been on, you can't get on for U.S. citizens, and yet at least 50% of the DEVVE community, the project behind OMI or behind the OMI token, is in the U.S. And so it's not that you can't get the token if you're in the U.S. You just can't get the token on centralized exchange. There's ways to get it on decentralized exchange. But this is good news for OMI, and this is good news for Kraken that listed. And Kraken's, in regulated jurisdictions of like Canada, the US, UK. And so between those three areas, that makes up probably 70% of DEVVE's user base. And so great exchange listing. I'm not concerned. I'm not convinced that these amazing prices are over for OMI. So it has pumped on that news to these recent high prices. And look, it's coming off some. I don't know that this heyday of prices that are just so low is over yet. And I love this kind of time frame. I love this kind of timing when prices are really, really low. The bull market for altcoins probably isn't that far away. There's every sign that DEVVE is going to survive long enough into like this greater altcoin run. And so the risk versus reward is a situation that I love. And that's not to say it couldn't fail from here. It's just the chance of it failing are so low. I feel like it's a very lopsided bet. It's not that the bet can't go against you. It's just the probabilities, in my opinion, are strongly stacked for you. So OMI, even though it's not as cheap as it was here, and this was an amazing, almost too good to pass up buy, is still in a buy zone. It's just not as juicy as it was. And I think there's a strong chance it comes back down. Maybe not to these lows, maybe these lows. But this is a news announcement. So realize that if the narrative doesn't hit, then the price will likely come back down to where it was, because this pump was just on some recent news. And it is good news. It's not yet tradable on Kraken. They just announced that it will be tradable on Kraken. But there's like a 20 business day waiting period between when they announce something and when you can actually buy it on that exchange. And maybe Kraken is going to run some marketing related to OMI being on it. And maybe that pops it up on the awareness of more people. And so maybe then it does keep going up from here. But I'm not convinced that the narrative is ready to hit. And if the narrative's not ready to hit, usually the price will come back down. Now, what is interesting about this is ever since here, look at the trading volume differences. All this trading volume, that's crazy. All this trading volume increase from the bear market, I mean, look at this trading volume here. So this is an indicator that the bottom is close to being in, if it isn't in. So like if it does come back down, that might be your last chance with these trading volume increases here. All right. We have a few viewer suggestions. That's all we had on the plan. We have Fias we're going to take a look at. Copy we're going to take a look at, and then we'll take a look at NTX. Tommy says, I'm just now finding about it. OMI getting on Kraken. Nice surprise coming back from hiking in mountains for a couple of weeks. That is the beautiful thing about the type of investing I like to do, where I load up during the bear market and I sell when everything's going crazy, is you get to go about living your life. And really, when everybody is talking about crypto, is a sign to pay really close attention, because it's then time to be taking profits like crazy. All right, so let's take a look at Fias. I'm going to step away for a second while you are going over Fias, and I will be right back.
Sure. If you don't come back, I'll just go into Copy. But what a nice thing to be doing, walking in the mountains for a couple of days. That's really sounds lovely, and it's really important to do stuff like that, especially with the markets. It clears your head. You know, sometimes you just need a break, and that's a perfect way to do it. So as far as Fias goes, yeah, really interesting. Glad that you put this up on the board, because it's trying to do something, isn't it? We're seeing a low level support hit, broke the previous level, and then went straight up. So what you got was that was the low, broke the low, people would have sold it, bam, goes straight back up again. Ultimately, it's still just playing in this range, so it's not done enough to change the trend. But if you look at the prior high here and it's matched it here, it only needs to go into here, and then it will look like it's forming a base. Definitely through this area here, you're starting to get some like clear space for it to push to the next level. So these resistance points are where buys come in. So buying through here, and then definitely buying through this level at 3 cents is where I would expect more buyers to enter, certainly from a technical point of view. So clearly it's not done that yet. So I've got to wait until those levels are breached. But this sort of beginning volatility is a sign that the market wants to turn. And as I keep saying, you know, the background is tailwinds pushing this all along with the macro situation. It's been frustrating that the response from the riskier of the risky coins has been muted and sometimes negative, but sometimes the market does that to just clear out the positions, and then it goes where it was going to go, and that's why this whole thing is so difficult. It's why it's really difficult to call the markets right, because it's in some ways trying to do everything it can to kind of make you make mistakes, really. And some people even think it's doing it to them personally. They get very upset, as we've seen before, but it's just how the markets are. But overall, again, this is another one where it's gone from being looking at on a weekly basis, down to, I'd say, every day or every couple of days, because I wouldn't want to see it pushing into these levels without me knowing about it, because that's where it starts to get really interesting for a breakout. So for the moment, it's a wait, but definitely keep it on the board for next week. And I'd also say that it's interesting that there's fewer picks and less interest in crypto right now, which is exactly what you'd expect to happen when you've had some form of correction. It needs to rebuild that kind of hype again, or sentiment. And as the markets go up, you're probably going to see a lot of people still not want to join, because they're just really skeptical. They've decided that that's it, and those people who capitulate right at the last phase will tell us that we're in the reversal. So, that's if I'm right about the way that works. So we shall see. But for the moment, it's a wait.
Yeah. I like Fias. Fias is related to DEVVE's blockchain in that it's the token, the gaming token for their Lidcraft game and their video game ecosystem that they hope to build. And so Fias, let me pull it up. This is the wrong one. Let's go to here, Fias. Trading about 2 cents. Recently went to 1.3 cents as it went really cheap again. Really good price. And then went up to 2 cents. It's still at a market cap that's so crazy low, which is awesome. I like Fias a lot. So I was talking with somebody related to DEVVE, and they were hinting that some big things with Fias are being developed and worked on right now, but I don't know what it is. So close enough to the team that I got some information, but without knowing what the specifics are. They're making a big push towards the gaming ecosystem again. Still, like, is Fias going to run in the meantime? No, this is just, it corrected too low. It seems like it's bouncing up. It's definitely not yet a breakout of this trend, but interesting to note what a big bounce it has done. Whether it's ready to break up yet is not confirmed, but all of this area is, even with this big increase from 1.3 cents up to 2 cents, it's still at 2 cents, only a market cap of 2.5 million. So strongly in the buy territory and buy zone. It's not as good of a price as it was, but it still feels like buying when there's blood in the streets. But here's when the blood was savage and everyone was worried and concerned. And that's what buying really low feels like. It's like, it feels like it's never going to stop going down. And then suddenly, if it survives, it does stop going down and goes really crazy the other way. So I like Fias. Great suggestion. Let's see. We got Cornucopias next.
Yeah. So this is still in a downward phase. The positives are that we've seen some form of capitulation, and that happened below some really important support. So below the support, went down, shaking everyone about, and then it's trying to go back up again. So that's a positive sign that this short-term price action has reversed where it has, i.e., it's done it below an important support point where you get a lot of sellers or capitulation, and it's just come straight back up again. If it was resting on the lows there, that would be a concern. So that's the positive side. But the overall picture is still of a downward trend. So it hasn't done quite enough to get us out of this downward phase. So this could just be a rebound and maybe slight squeeze before it resumes it again. And given that that's been the pattern from around here, from around this sort of spike up here from August, I've got to be a little bit careful about when I enter in. Now, if I was to say, yeah, this is low, this is a low that I could buy in, yeah, fine. I could justify buying here and putting a stop here because it's fairly close to it. But that, I've also got to look at probabilities, and is the probability that it's going to move higher enough? And that's why sometimes in technicals we look to buy something that's already at a high because it's extending higher, because the probabilities are just greater that it's going to continue. It doesn't guarantee it's going to continue, it's just greater. So for the moment, this is still in the wait phase because it's got more work to do. But as I say, there's some positives to be taken from this short-term rebound, but not quite enough to turn the ship around as yet. Again, if this can just consolidate, this will be the first tripwire, this downward trend line here. And also, we are seeing this pattern of spikes, clear outs, and then sharp upward moves. So, it's possible that this might happen, but I can't justify it technically. I can see how there is a rotation in some of the markets, But when you're looking at charts, you really have to, you can obviously you're going to put everything together because that's part of the process. But I can't justify it yet to say that this would be a buy for me. I mean, maybe if it see this pattern of resistance that's built up here from a short-term trade, sure, if it just traded up to this level, I could say on a 1 or 2 day basis, it would be a buy. But that's not enough to look at it from a long-term point of view. But given how other markets have done something similar, it'd be a good idea to be watching it day to day again rather than week to week. But still, for me, it's a wait at this point.
Yes. Well, here is Cornucopias in the bigger price structure. Now, remember, this was the blockchain gaming run in the middle of the bear market. So a lot of things really popped off in October. Copi ran a little bit later than a lot of the blockchain gaming. So it had a delayed reaction as blockchain gaming ran. Cornucopias stayed low for a little bit, and then it had its increases going from 2.1 cents all the way to, although it shows it here 8 cents, it went to about 10 or 11 cents. And so big 5-6x, and then it's come back and been even cheaper during the bear market. So this is an amazing price. This is an amazing accumulation zone. It's really, really cheap right now. I like it. Going to it on CoinMarketCap, its market cap is just over $10 million. Where can something like this go? Well, if it really catches some good traction in the bull market, it can go to a several billion-dollar market cap. So there's plenty of potential upside here. This is exactly the kind of buys that I love. They are rebranding from Copi, so that's going to disjoint the charts, a lot of the charts, as they change to Infinity Rising and a new token called the Rise token. Essentially, they'll just be migrating tokens over to the new token with the new name. And I like the new name better. So for whatever reason, the token price has gotten even cheaper, probably because blockchain gaming's narrative isn't running yet. And you've gotten a taste of what can happen when the blockchain gaming narrative does run back in October, November, December of 2024. I think that's just a slight indication of what will happen when in a full bull run, the blockchain gaming narrative hits. And so you've gotten a taste for what it can do if it can survive till then. Now, they do have ongoing sales that raise them funds as they're waiting for the bull market. So I'm not aware that they're in any kind of money troubles. So I think that they'll survive until the bull run. And if they do that and the blockchain gaming narrative hits, really, really good upside. So I look for this kind of risk versus potential reward situation. And at this price, Copi is a really strong buy for what I'm looking at. So great viewer suggestion. All right, let's take a look at NTX.
Yeah, again, we've got this capitulation and rebound, strong rebound that we're seeing across as a pattern. And yeah, definitely the bears would have been caught out here. I wouldn't have bought it without further evidence. There was some evidence of a spike, the way it accelerated down and then stopped. But even spikes, you've got to be careful with, because we saw one here, didn't we? And then the market went sideways, and it usually that would indicate that the market is the trend is over. But you need evidence of a break at this point around here. So the fact that it's broken it here wouldn't have been the buy signal. The buy signal would have been around here in this zone, and in between that, it went into a new low and rallied back up again. So similarly, this is really great short-term price action that's indicating there is a change in market dynamics. That's a short-term perspective. From a longer-term perspective, there is just not enough to say that we've reversed this downward trend, which in this case was December 24 when it started, and it's still printing lower highs. but trends end, don't they? And we've got to look at the signs that are saying it's over. And the greatest level for this is definitely this line here, which is hiding behind there. Well, we'll just say it's a little bit more than 91244. But look at this support, touches it as resistance. We've also got the moving average there as well. So there's so much technical stuff in this zone. If it gets back up there, I really think it'll be knocking on the door of an upward trend. So hate to repeat myself, but I can only tell you what I'm seeing. This is one that's gone from, I don't probably wait a couple of weeks and come back to it, to this is a daily watch, because if it's heading back up here, we could be seeing something interesting very, very quickly. So it's still a wait, but I can see why you want to look at it, and it's a good one to be, alerting other people to as well. So yeah.
So this one's in the narrative of decentralized physical infrastructure. So NewNet, what they do is, currently the global ecosystem is fragmented and oligopolistic. Large infrastructure providers dominate in computational resources. The edge of networks are underutilized. NewNet's interoperable framework will enable an efficient distribution of diverse computational processes across a distributed and scalable network of individually owned hardware devices. So in other words, you use your gaming computer that you have at home, put it to work processing transactions for NewNet's network, and you can earn rewards in the processes. So it's a way to make distributed computation rather than, say, Amazon Web Services. It basically is who their competitor is, and blockchain enables this to be reliable and possible. So they call that the decentralized physical infrastructure narrative. Now, what I like about NewNet is a lot of their tokens are already out in circulation. You see the vesting schedule is very much slowed. A lot of the tokens are out there. Its market cap is 3.8 million. Its fully diluted value still has 7.5 million. So they're still about 50% unlocked and 50% not unlocked yet. Their pricing has gotten, even during the bull market, went up to almost 9 cents. It's pulled back or during the bear market, it's pulled back all the way to this really, really cheap price, showing signs that may want to turn around now. Now, it was cheaper here, but it's gone up by 50%. Still a really, really good price with a $4 million market cap. And I like NewNet. I think I even still own some. During the bear market, when it went crazy, I took profits. I sold, I think, 80% of my NewNet, maybe 90%. When it went crazy during the bear market like this, I was like, wow, that was unexpected. So when one does this in a bear market versus, so it went about 10x, I usually will sell and roll that into some things that are really cheap. It's gone right back down to those prices again. So amazing buy zone. This definitely gets a buy from me. Clearly one that I like. And I've owned it before. Still own it. I didn't sell all mine off back then, but most of it. And it's back in the buy zone, which is why I do what I do when it does this kind of thing in a bear market, is it'll often come right back down. Great suggestion. All right, let's look at
Moonbeam.
Moonbeam. There we go. Will be our last suggestion for the day.
Yeah. So again, I could see why you want to look at this. There's been the spike sell-off. That's a classic spike reversal. Normally, after you see something like that, the market does exactly this. It goes sideways and volatility drops. And it's usually an indication that the trend is getting ready to reverse. Now, other than this move up here, there's still not enough evidence that it's on its way. So it's still in a consolidation. So I can't call it a buy at this point. It needs to do a bit more work. There's a couple of levels where, excuse me, that would become more apparent. The first one would be nearly at 5 cents, or this 4.9. The trouble with that is that the big level on here is this resistance point at 5.5. And if I'm buying it here, I know there's a brick wall just in front of it, and I would feel more comfortable if it was above that level. You can see why it's such a big level. The way it hit there, had a rebound. Each rebound lost a bit of energy, and then it's gone through this quite aggressively when it broke. So there'll be, if we get back to there, anyone who was waiting to sell might use that as an opportunity to get out. So there should be some pressure there on the sell side. But on the other hand, if and when it gets through that, that's a really good sign. It'd be a really good technical signal that this trend is now ready to reverse and could be more sustainable. We can actually also draw in an upward trend line. So we could draw this line in, even though it's very close. Now, the margin is not enough for me to feel comfortable in saying that this is well established. It's just this is the kind of upward trend rate at the moment. Trend lines are there to be traded against. So, I could buy against there and put a tight stop. Maybe it'd be right, but I think the probability is it probably still will break this line anyway. It'll kind of trade into it, but I don't know. So it's not clear enough for me to step in. I mean, you could always justify a trade one way or the other, and at the moment, it's interesting. Again, it's back to this is a daily watch rather than a weekly watch, but what I'm looking for is signs of it accelerating up. And that means that this base is going to be in, because people will take their eye off the ball. They will go, right, I'm going to sell all my holdings. I had enough. Don't want to see it anymore. And then, like, longer term, people who are seeing the value there will start to buy into that and say this is really cheap. Price starts to accelerate, and they'll just continue to stay out of it whilst it trends up. And for me, that's a really good sign that the trend is sustainable. But this 55 200 level, this horizontal line here is a Rubicon level for me. It's got to be above there for me to be confident in the longer term recovery. And whilst we're below it, it's I would approach it with a bit of caution. But at least there are some signs it's trying to reverse, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch the Polkadot ecosystem really struggle during this bear market, and you get almost no news on the Polkadot ecosystem, and it's way, way out of the narrative. And often it then feels like the Polkadot ecosystem is dead. What I've learned in crypto is that's often not the case, but sometimes, most often it's not. And that's when the prices get really, really undervalued. And then as updates are released or it comes in the narrative, then prices swing massively to the upside. So Moonbeam is one of the bigger projects built on the Polkadot ecosystem. As Polkadot's been way, way outside the narrative, the price of Moonbeam has severely been punished. And really good buy zone if it survives. Now, probably it will survive into the bull market. Does Polkadot end up being a major player in the future? I don't know what kind of traction it's getting in the past number of years. They made a really big bet 3 to 4 years ago, and that a lot of their investors in development went to China. And then when China passed like a ban on blockchain, boy, it just really hurt the Polkadot project and a lot of the ones building on it. But they're still around. It's not like all their development was in China or anything. Is it going to survive? Probably into the bull market. Is it long-term going to survive? I have no idea. But when you see this kind of price action, like it's gone from 11 cents all the way down to 3.4 cents. This is the lopsided bet. Lopsided from, gosh, it's been so price punished. If they just survive into the bull market, I don't see why it doesn't do way better from here. The $35 million market cap for such a potentially big project and go to $1 billion market cap or higher feels like a lopsided bet. This isn't one I would take a huge position in, though. I'll rate this a buy, but it would not be a huge buy at all. It would not be anything like, it would be a little bit more than coffee money type of buy, because I don't know enough about what is going on with the system to make a bigger bet. So it would just be a, geez, it's so cheap. Let me throw some of my coffee money in on this one while it's so cheap type of buy. There's no sign that the price turning around, like Paul said. Maybe, but I mean, this trend. Now, people make the assumption with price trends like this that what has been happening is going to continue to happen for forever. And that's a mistake, both to the downside and to the upside. This happens also correspond with, in 2021 was the bull market. So it was coming off the bull market. The price action is going down, 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 down during the bear market, and altcoins haven't really pumped yet. So of course, Glimmer hasn't pumped in that time, or Moonbeam hasn't pumped in that time, but that doesn't mean that's going to continue for forever. And making that assumption usually is wrong. So when the bull market happens, I don't see why this won't pump, and you'll see this trend reverse significantly to the other direction. Well, another show concluded. I am heading out to Vegas for its Designer Con, where the VV community is going to be doing a lot of get-togethers there. So if you are going to that, reach out to me. Let me know you're going to be there. And yeah, I'd love to connect up with you.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I'd love to go to Vegas. Never been to Vegas, so it's definitely going to happen sometime. So maybe next year I'll see you there.
Yes, we'll do some karaoke there live.
Absolutely.
Everyone,
breakdancing. I've been practicing.
All right. I think this time next year, given if the bull market happens and things go crazy in the crypto space, that means probably DEVVE, the Paul worked for, things go crazy for them. And it sounds like it would be a good time to then celebrate a year from now at Designer Con next year, where a bunch of the VV community, a bunch of our audience will be anyway.
Yeah, I'd like to come regardless. It'd be nice to just come out and see you guys. So
yeah,
but yeah, it would be great if all of those things are happening as well. Which, you know, you never know. I'm still positive on it. So
great plan. All right, Paul. Well, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the picks, and yeah, enjoy your time in Vegas.
Yeah, it'll be hard, but I'll figure it out somehow.
Brilliant.
We'll see you, Paul.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Well, you're still here. You've survived most of the bear market. Is the altcoin bull market fully here yet? No, we're seeing some signs that it's probably the action is about to start. So we'll see. I think November and December are going to be decent for crypto, but I think the bigger blow off top happens next year. So all your patience will have paid off, and you get to reap the fruit of all this effort, all this time, all this patience that you put in for the past 3 to 4 years. And that's going to be a fun time. All right, everyone. Love you all. We will see you soon. Enjoy this wrap. You know what it's all about. Talk to you later.
To the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. Buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always made the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. Principles are simple, believe in a lot. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road can soon become a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, say the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.